This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, and I will post, there's Amelia. I'll post the agenda link in the chat room before I share the agenda screen.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Amelia. How are you?
Good. Happy 2022 to everyone, especially you, Scott. And kisses. Mwah.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. Okay. Hi, Dimitri. For those who just joined, I already started the recording. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see. Great. Okay. Close that. And let's see. Is that big enough? The screen?
Looks good for me.
Great. That's awesome. Okay. So I don't know if anyone has items to add to the agenda. I'm trying to be more mindful of listening during these calls. Typically I'm a very quiet person. I tend to just talk a lot at these because I don't, talk much, typically. But I will try to, to listen. I added. I mentioned Stack Overflow issue, which Guru had reported. He's not here. Maybe we can skip that. That's just an implementation issue. Probably not that important to handle during this call. But the second item, I added the pull request to create the new standalone faces TCK. And if that, if that is interest to discuss here, I wanted, it seems relevant to just mention that there's a pull request. Sorry, let me back up a second. I misspoke there. Okay, this pull request is to update the Jakarta Faces TCK test in the platform TCK. Currently, we can't compile the platform TCK due to the changes that have to be accounted for. And so if anyone else wants to review that, I have to let Guru in. Let me just do that. Okay, great. If anyone wants to participate in the review of those changes, that would be great. Sort of related to that is what I had mentioned before is there's a new standalone Faces TCK that brings about what's been discussed a lot, which is, now we're going to have duplicate tests in the platform TCK, and that is, a different issue, which is, that we'll have to address, which is we'll have duplicate tests, and look. Okay, let's see. So that's something that will have to be addressed. And let's see. I guess I'm jumping ahead. The fourth item talks about that. So let's just wait. Let's just wait a minute. I should listen. Okay. Any feedback on either of these two issues, the Stack Overflow or updating the Faces test in the platform TCK? Is there anything to discuss there?
Yeah, hi Scott. This is Alvin here. Yeah, so for the Faces TCK, I think there is a general plan to create a separate standalone TCK. So probably I'll ping the issue link URL here. Yeah, so I think all the issues related to the Faces TCK can come under probably under this section. So one is the pull request that you mentioned here. That is one of the items that need to be addressed for Faces TCK. Uh, yeah, another is the assertion IDs that needs to be created for this new standalone TCK.
I'm gonna
So
move.
yeah,
I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm just gonna move um, the third item down below, just so that the two faces related items are, are kind of, next to each other. Okay. Yep. Yep. Sorry. Go. Keep going. So
yeah,
assertions is right there in the next one. So. Yep.
right. So regarding the pull request, I think if someone who has some experience with the JSF or the Faces API, I think if they can review or go through, like that would be helpful, either from the TCK team, or we can check with the Faces dev team. Probably I will email the team, the Faces dev team after this call to review it. So that will be a start about to how to fix the Faces source for the new version. So there is also a plan to create this new standalone TCK that will use this source from the Jakarta TCK, and also a TCK that was created in the Mohara repository.
Hmm.
So so I think that also need to be addressed, I believe.
Hmm.
So yeah, fixing the TCK tests in the Jakarta TCK is, I think, is just one of the items that we need to address. We should also be assisting in creating this new standalone TCK that will have tests from the other repositories. Yeah,
I
yeah. I just wanted to bring up.
so you mentioned assertion IDs, and um, um, we discussed assertion IDs on the platform TCK, and it didn't seem to get a lot of attention from what I recall. Um, but what, one question is, does the new Faces TCK need to do insertion, to include assertion IDs, or could they just reference the Java doc and the, and the, the spec sections with descriptives, with the, descriptive, description of what they're testing about that section, like maybe the specs, section number and all that, like I know there's some tooling that we've used in the past, but do users really, like for the new TCKs, do users need assertion IDs, or is it enough for them to have a description?
I think Aryan had listed this as one of the items that need to be addressed. So regarding the assertions, like we have two types of assertion IDs. Like one is spec assertions, and another is API or the Java doc assertions. So most of the tools that we have, like for DPA and for JAXRS, we have had tools to generate Java doc assertions. But for spec assertions, from historically, it looks like they were done manually. I mean, for a new requirement in the spec document. So probably for spec assertions, somebody will have to go through the spec document and create new spec IDs for that.
But,
But
but
for the API, yeah.
who uses the spec IDs? I mean, sorry,
Uh,
sorry, the assertion IDs. I mean, sorry.
I'm not very sure, but I think historically we had these both spec and API assertion documents in the TCKs.
Yep.
Yeah,
The
So the assertions are
So
there. The assertions are there to provide traceability, right? So and I guess I'll say it's not adhered to in all specifications, but this gives you a this says, well, somebody does a complete, in an abstract fashion, someone will do a complete review of the spec and the Java docs, and they will identify, this is where the magic is, each testable, each assertion in the API. Then someone decides, is this testable or not? And if it's testable, do we write a a compatibility test for it or not, right? So generally, I think assertions are only used if someone's having trouble with the test. They're trying to figure out where was this, what's the source of this test, and do I have to do it? So if someone's trying to lawyer the spec and wants to get, to form a challenge, that's what the assertions help you do.
Okay, it's definitely referenced in the current TCK process, but that was like for challenges, I would think that you could identify the test just as well that's failing, and include any description like the test description, and if the tests describe the spec. Basically what I'm asking is, would it be enough to for new TCK writers to use to be descriptive about the spec section and what's being tested about that spec, and the same for APIs, what's the field, what's the class, what's the method, and that's being tested. Like, is that, or I wanted to see if we can get input on that, because I just haven't gotten much in feedback before. So would that be worthwhile to replace assertion IDs, and then it would be easier and less process to to generate the assertion IDs, I think. Okay.
I think it would be up to the spec team also, like what they really want. Maybe we should also check with the Faces team what their expectation would be. Yeah.
Okay.
At least for the Faces TCK.
So possibly, oops. So possibly we could. I think there's there may be some more discussion may be needed, but possibly we could defer to spec. Possibly defer to spec team to determine if they do, if they use assertion IDs. Oops, IDs in their TCKs. Okay, all right. I wanted feedback about that, because I wasn't quite sure if that was something that we should look at, and we happen to be in the moment of creating this, and someone needs to create assertion IDs for the Faces TCK. It's an action item, but yeah, I wanted to understand, if there's alternatives. So that's a that's a good.
So what you're describing is, it is you're creating an identifier that's going to validate an assertion. The assertion is realized in the test, right? And how that happens, it is it is kind of ad hoc right now, and many of the lists of assertions are kind of, we carry them forward, but I don't think they're maintained particularly well.
Okay.
No, for example, I don't think many of them have been added. Many new assertions have been added from the specification documents. New assertions may have been culled out of the Java docs.
Okay. Yeah, I know there was a recent persistence test change to add a test, and in that pull request, they ran the tooling and I think it was Jan Spool,
John,
maybe.
John Sapol.
Okay. Did, yeah, but and it covered like there were like it added missing assertion IDs for other tests that seemed to be covered, which was great. But okay, it just seemed heavyweight, and I wasn't sure if we needed to do it, so I wanted to get feedback. So that's good. We should probably go on now, I think.
One question
Yep.
to the assertion IDs. These are unique IDs over all TCKs or unique for one spec TCK?
Let's see.
They include a spec identifier, so they're unique across all.
Oh, thanks.
But they're it's supposed to provide traceability. I don't know how fully implemented they are. It's more of a concept than anything else to me.
As a long time user of TCKs, or someone who's run TCKs a lot and reported many challenges, I always found it enough to have the information about the test that's failing, from the point of view of reporting what failed and the JTR file, and also the Java doc and the spec reference. Like, all I did with the assertion ID was look up in the other file that had a list of what spec section I should look at. And if I just had the spec section or the Java doc coordinates directly, I would have been perfectly happy with that. It would have saved me as a user from the extra step of following a pointer to some of the file I had to find. And so it kind of slowed me down. It could slow users down, but I think it may have served another purpose too. Maybe spec IDs, like the section IDs, weren't known early on, or maybe like if they changed, if you had the indirection, maybe that helped. Like if you if you move in spec doc around, like for new sections, and changing like section IDs a lot, or if that could happen, then maybe they helped with that.
So long ago, like I said, a complete list of assertions will be created. Then a decision will be made: is this testable? And then another decision would be made: do we write a test for it? Right? And as part of the go no go decision for the specification, we would evaluate: have enough of the testable assertions been tested? Are there, and that was represented as a code coverage number, right? And so we had marks. We would evaluate that and say, you need to write more tests because there's not enough code coverage here. It's not, and that's a different kind of code coverage than what is traditionally used by some mapping the actual execution path. So assertions had other uses. We don't adhere to those at this point.
Okay, thank you for adding the actual historical. I was just guessing on what I had said. It seemed like a possible function of it, but I never really.
Well, it does provide it is a traceability element. Yes. Good. It just had there are other aspects. These are all turn of the century. Our ideas about how to manage code. I think things have changed.
Yep. Good. Thank you. And we are being recorded for those who joined late, and we now thank you for that excellent description of the historical background there. Does anyone else have anything else about the standalone faces and assertion IDs, or can we move on?
Can we backtrack actually to the Stack Overflow, Scott?
Yep.
Since we passed over that, I was doing some research while that conversation was going on. So we actually hit this in our Liberty testing back last spring. And we worked around it just by specifying, an increased stack size on a particular invocation in the TS-JTE, where I think by default it gives you like 1024K. We just doubled it to 2048K, and that took care of all our problems. And we saw it when we were tinkering around with different JDKs, so different versions and different vendors. Some of the vendors would tip over the stack, and some would be just fine. So,
excellent. I know we saw it before with Glassfish testing. I searched my email. I couldn't find like the. Yeah, I looked for like Stack Overflow, and I looked for I know we had like Glassfish issues or TCK issues, and I don't know. I'm just looking. I looked for the wrong thing, but I did try to look for this.
The issue is seen post the JDK 11 build of the platform TCK. Before that, it was not seen. And it is seen with the Glassfish also. When we run with the Glassfish 6 with JDK 11 platform TCK. So has Brian said what's the stack size which helped for Open Liberty?
Yeah, it was. We just doubled it to 2048, and that exactly matches our situation. So when we were doing Java 8 stuff, it was fine, but it's when we switched to Java 11, certain vendors, we just tipped over the stack.
Okay, great.
And I can add to the issue out there in the repo with more detail of what we did.
Yeah, that would definitely help and save some more debugging time for us. Thanks, Brian.
Yep, you bet.
Okay, so I added an item for whether it's basically whether it's time to update or to look for any stage spec API updates that we haven't updated the platform TCK build for yet. And the reason why I wanted to ask is because of what we saw with Jakarta faces. Once we updated the faces API spec API, we got build failures, and I guess the question is, do we want to just keep changing to the latest spec APIs and maybe get even more build failures possibly? I'm not quite sure if that would happen or not, but that would I thought that would be worth posing to for input. If there's concerns about changing too much at once. So do others have any opinion on that? And this is what the platform TCK build uses to compile all of the current tests.
Basically, in my opinion, having the stage spec APIs and using them as early as possible gives us the clear visibility on the changes we need to make to our repo, basically the Jakarta EE TCK repo, and have the changes done instead of when the APIs are integrated with the Glassfish. So using the staged API is giving us early visibility into the changes we need to make. For example, in WebSocket, we had to have make some changes to the test, and also for faces we had to make the changes. Updating the APIs gave us the early visibility that we had to make changes and not wait for the spec to be released. If there is some changes which breaks these fixes we do, then and it causes the regression for the fixes we do, then there will be a problem. But I think API pros, spec APIs are released and tested, are done in a very good process. I don't think we will have some regression after making the fixes for build changes.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
That's good. That's helpful. I'm trying to be mindful of other implementations. You're not really like just. I know Glassfish is very active, but any other? Is anyone seeing problems because we're frequent we're moving too quickly on updating to the new spec APIs that are staged? That was.
I think this is a really good idea. So it offers failing fast and don't waste time and get surprises at the end when everybody is in hurry. So that is very good. One thing that need to be managed, and I think that is managed manually now. Some of these spec APIs on the staging repo got removed after 60 days. So we have to make sure that at least that version that is referenced has a build on the staging repo. But that could, on the other hand, ensure that for others who want to integrate and need that too. So
Great. Good feedback. Thank you. So I will, well, anyone that feels like updating those should certainly go ahead and do that. Let's see. Let's see. I'll just add my note. So, yes, anyone should please update the spec API artifacts based on, and I'll just put the link there.
maybe that tooling we are developing and introduced regarding creating a documentation, a graphical documentation and report on the dependencies of the APIs. That could help because if you run the tool, you can see in the logs already of JQA or JQ Assistant that spec versions are missing on the staging repo if you configure the staging repo as a target for the analysis.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, we have a Jenkins job that builds the like the signature. It'll basically take the spec APIs that are referenced currently, and it'll generate the signatures, and you can generate the signature map file. You can download the signature map files. It's one of the artifacts, and so maybe that job could. Or another job could generate the dependency report, and I guess I would be maybe it should maybe be a different one, but same or different. And is there a do you have a link that you can? I mean, I remember seeing the output, but if you add that,
I will link the repo, and there were a lot of changes since the last introduction last week.
Great. Thank you. So the last item on the agenda, anyways, is just wanted to mention so people are aware, and you may have seen the discussion on the TCK mailing list. Scott Kurtz, who's here, found a regression in the SIG test tool that we use for signature testing, in that let's say you're let's say someone adds a new sub package to persistence, Jakarta.persistence, so they add Jakarta.persistence my new API class, and that isn't currently being detected. That's the regression, and so wanted to mention that for awareness. And Scott created the pull request for the SIG test, the NetBeans SIG test tool that is merged, which was great to see. And we'll do more testing of that, but just wanted to kind of raise that awareness. I know about the no supersetting and no subsetting. I'm not quite sure if adding a new class package to a spec API is would that be considered supersetting? It kind of sounds like it would be, but I'm not 100% sure if that if that is or isn't included in that in the concern of the no super and subsetting rules.
Yeah, I also don't claim to know the rules. I was more reacting to my impression of what I interpreted the intent to be, but yeah, I couldn't point to a firm answer myself. And I just at least wanted to socialize whatever decision we made. I don't know. I mean, if we ask the person who maintains that repo to release a new version, I don't know. We can expect them to actually do that, him or her. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think he'll be responsive. The one so let me just add. I'd like to. I think I mentioned it somewhere on the issue or something, but we should we should verify the fix. That's all. And I don't know what you've done. I don't know exactly what you've done. I know locally I've done some validation that it is a problem. And so I can I already built the SIG test tool, and I just didn't run it again yet. I want to verify with EE91 TCK that it does detect that case.
I did a local test, but yeah, it would be good to get other testing too.
And then if we find other if for some reason we find that there's still problems, then maybe we would wait to ask for the build until we know we've satisfied that. But maybe there's other there's other testing. It's interesting. Like when I did the testing for EE91, I manually modified classes to add methods, to remove methods, to add fields, to remove fields. And to me, those were obvious supersetting and setting examples where someone either is adding their own methods or fields, or the removing methods or fields from a API class. I don't know. To me, like adding a new class doesn't sound good, and it's good that we'll validate that also. But that almost sounds like, I don't know, different. It sounds different, but I'm not sure. So I'm glad we have it on the mailing
Yeah.
list.
And another purpose in putting it out there is if anyone else thought there was any other changes needed for this next release we're going to ask for, we should ask at the same time, but I don't think, I'm not aware of anything like that.
Okay.
It looked like, you know, the release is set to 2.0 snapshot now. So I don't know if that was an intention of this being a bigger, you know, maybe breaking or major change that would be such that he'd not be ready to release it because it's a bigger change versus a smaller point release like a 1.6. So we can, what do you think, Scott? Just see if anyone chimes in on the mailing list the next day and then go ask for a release. Do you feel like you already have a channel going there? Or?
Yeah, I think it'd be, you know, so once we validated it, and I don't really expect more feedback on the mailing list, to be honest. We might get it, and if we do, that's great. But I think, yeah, once we validated that the identified problem is solved, I think we should request a release. And for the platform TCK, I'd like, you know, what I'll do is I'll create a, like, you know, when update in the library, I believe the process is when you add a library or update a library to a new version, that you create a CQ, a check-in questionnaire, and I'll do that for the platform TCK. And I'd like to have the time for that, so I'd like to have the release as early as possible, you know, so that, you know, there's time for that CQ to be processed for EE10. But yeah, for that reason, I'd like to do it early, but yep, or as early as possible.
Well, thank you. Thanks for handling that.
Also, the SIG test repository, I believe currently it's we use from a private fork. I believe we should copy to either Jakarta EE TCK or Jakarta EE TCK tools repo, or we can create new repo or some other valid repo where it's not an individual fork which can be deleted. The risk we have is that we are using the source from individual GitHub fork
Okay,
for SIG test sources.
So consider forking the NetBeans.
Or we can copy the source to Jakarta EE TCK tools repo, where all the contributors can maintain it.
Yeah, presumably there's exclusive ownership to the Maven coordinates, though. So it's not like this is just any fork. It's identified by the Maven coordinates, and if we agree at the Jakarta level that we like this project, it doesn't seem like it has to be a Jakarta one, unless we're faced with issues like this, or we need a Jakarta release at a certain time frame, and we don't want to rely on this release.
But yeah, there's probably reasons to do it. My concern with forking it or copying it would be maintenance. You know, right now I know of 3 people who have contributed, but the people who will contribute to that is going to be higher if you keep the current repo, the NetBeans repo. And it's kind of like someone's personal repo, but it's still the official NetBeans repo. We could propose, you know, moving it somewhere, but I'm not sure that it should move under. Yeah, I'm not sure where it should move, and I don't know. I mean, I want to see the need. I want to see us meet the need, and I don't know. I think we should I think that should be brought up on the TCK mailing list. and discuss there. Just because it's, yeah, I don't think we're gonna figure it out, right away. I think it's gonna take a while to figure that one out, but I don't know.
Yeah.
If we can get a release in time for EE10, that would seem to speak to this being a good mode of operation in the current project. I'd be happy with it then.
Sorry, if for EE10, if we what?
Well, I mean, so here we're faced with needing to release at the relative last minute, and if we can get this to work out,
yeah,
I would say that this plan is probably fine.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
Not.
Yeah.
Probably definitely.
We can use. We can discuss about the signature tool or the source being in a private repo. Yeah, current release we can keep it as it is.
And I'm just going to add. I don't want to waste the remaining time. I'm just going to add this before I forget it. But consider creating new signature test tool. But yeah, not going to say what I mean by that, but because I really want to get on to the next one because it's let's see. We lost. Okay, I guess we already lost. We lost Dimitri. I was hoping to get to it while he was still here. So I just wanted to call out on the platform issue 339, which let me open that up here. It's just so we can just look at that for a second. I took a shot at describing the actions that I think should be taken for removing duplicate tests from the platform TCK. Most of from the discussion last week at the recorded TC call we had last week. And if people could give feedback on that or comment on that, I think that would be great. I didn't really email this around, and I kind of jammed it into the issue for need to define how specification TCKs that reference other specification containers are handled. And I kind of thought, okay, that sounds like that's the platform TCK. It also would be like if we created other like integration TCKs. But you could also say that could also apply to any TCK that does integrate with other with EE container or vehicles, if you will, to validate platform requirements as well. And I kind of jammed it in there. So I don't know if anyone else had noticed that, and I didn't really send email about that, but I wanted to mention this to people here. And so if people have feedback on that, I guess they can add it directly there, but I'm just going to stop talking about that and just open it up to if anyone has feedback, go please speak up.
Hey Scott, I do. This seems like a checklist and I did miss it even though I watched the repo. I think what is helpful is if there is something like a checklist to pull it first on a Google Doc so that with suggested edit, we can, the technical Jakartese can go in there and say, this is missing, easier. It's nice to have the tracing and the link and the Git issue. However, it's not conducive to actually contributing to write-up. It's not just much more effective to use Google. And I'm not sure if you have access to the new drive for Jakarta EE, but the TCK should have a folder where these minutes go in and where we can create documents that will become wikis. I know we have a struggle, especially in the TCK side, to update the past documentation so that the single developer can run one test, submit a PR and be like, hey, I'm a contributor of the project, but it's really hard to do so. We still have not lowered the bar to entry to make anyone comfortable, anyone that is not currently a committer for the project. to test, right? I think we do have a few non-committers here, but it's just complicated. So this is a great opportunity for us to say, hey, Google Doc, this is we're doing X, jump in, and we do have a really good forum in the mailing list.
We could easily, like this would like copy and paste right into, I think, into a Google Doc.
And then we can go in there and be like, other stuff. I'm not sure what else. Who else have comments on this?
So I'll just say what I was trying to do. I was trying to capture. I rewrote this, section like three or four times. It was really messy, initially, and even the third time it was still pretty messy. And I'm just trying to make it simplify it and reduce the make it as streamlined and process friction free on the process side as possible, but not lose anything that was identified last week. So so it's kind of here, but if people want to discuss it, so want to revise it via a Google Doc, that sounds fine too. No issues there. So
and Scott, when you said, because the call of last week, sorry, I missed it.
It was recorded, actually.
I will check it. I usually check those over audio, so I will. And it's 6 a.m. That's too hard. But anyway, so what I said is, you have been working on this, and it's amazing, right? But there is no tracing aside from an edit that doesn't show. It's not that you are working on a PR that will show the review. You are working blindly and not showing your work. So I'm saying, let's protect the work by using Google Docs. If you're not going to use a PR because it's fine, PR will mean that it needs to be merged and reviewed by others, right? Then let's use Google Drive to protect the tracing and the improvements. As it is, there is no tracing aside from whatever happened and how it started. I am a big proponent, as as showing how things get to there, because for developers, showing the gold is not all of it. We need to show the pain that goes through it, and it's not easy, right? It's humble. So let's do that. Put it in a Google Doc, add it to the link, add it to the Git issue, and that will be my recommendation, and we'll go from there. Because you did most of the work already. You're like just saying, hey, you guys come and review, I need extras.
I may have done most of the work. It all depends on how others feel about, that also were in the call last weekend, whether I covered what's important to them. And there's a lot of subjective aspects to what we talked about last week. As well, and no matter what we do, it's one of those things, we're going to lose something no matter what. So it's actually it's summarized in the notes from last week's as well, agenda, but our minutes. So so that sounds like a great way to handle it. So good. I think the Google same doc. Okay. Does anyone else? We have 10 minutes. Does anyone else have any issues that they would like to raise for our last 10 minutes?
One add-on I might have. One drawback of using Google Doc for editing is that is not the developer's preferred tool. I would like to do it within my IDE, and if we would write these documents in ASCII docs and create a wiki out of it, that could be exported, for example, to the website too, automatically when released. That will be another option to have that traceability and transparency about the changes, who made what changes at what time. But the developers could use their preferred tool, the IDE.
So let me throw an idea, just because it was fresh on my mind. Sorry, Amelia, let me just throw it out there, and then
go ahead.
I'll turn it over. should we, should we have a like a notes folder in platform, TCK for design discussions of, I should say, design maybe process discussions, because then that would have, and then we would have, pull requests for discussion and revision and all that. And that kind of gets us out of, then we just have like mock-up, either, it could be markdown as well, I should say. So I'll just add, so markdown would be the other, the other popular option there. But so just would others like to see that? And Amelia, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that working on Axidoc is a fantastic way to also trace things, and it will make it easier for anyone working on this to become a potential committer, because there will be the tracing with PRs, merge, and all that data, if it's done under the TCK repo, will be added to the next release. So all those committers, because we have the pooling card, all the activity gets pulled and said, these people were added and are, helped. And, if you want your name added to as a contributor of a particular release, it will have tracing, which is a huge +1, even better than Google. Google is just the basic, just basic, but that one, it looks like, yes, this will clean up even more. So Jan, a really good point.
Great. I was thinking that, we really need, it would be great to capture historical information that anyone has to share in such a, in such a folder. Even if they start out with something that's wrong, like just the other day, we were talking about how some folders have some folders are called EE and SC and in the TCK test folders, and that that could mean Java standalone edition test. It could mean Jakarta Enterprise Edition test. Or it could mean end-to-end tests, and I always thought EE was only a reference to it's either a package for for Jakarta EE, but there's also end-to-end, and there's probably other historical info that that could be shared that for people to add, and having a place for those kinds of notes would be great. So yep, okay, good, thank you. Any other ideas? Last 5 minutes.
I would like to recommend that maybe in the next call for 10 minutes, the college used to do a retrospective of 2021 and the work done for the, even for the newcomers, if they are newcomers and they were not related to the work done in 2021 and the TCK. I think it's important to see what PRs are still open, what issues are still open, why are they open, and do the little cleaner to say, ideally the TCK retrospective uses the PRs and say, these ones are for 2021, we will work on them or not, and just clean it and be like, XY. I did say before we ended the year that Scott, you have done a fantastic job bringing everything to the forum, like no other specification under the Jakarta EE. Really shows the amount of care, and it's a thankless job. And like that, many go in there and are doing a really good job as well, writing and commenting. But I think the retrospectives as necessary should be required, and it should be like 10 minutes. And the microprofile side, we use a 1 full hour for the first call of the year, and that is great. For the TCK, it's up to the group to decide, do we use a full hour? And it should be a special, but it's not something that you can force into people, right?
Mhm.
And
Sure.
I'm saying that maybe you do something architectural. It's easier to talk about PRs that are still open from last year. Why are they open? And who is not taking them? And why are they still open? And why should you, Scott, be the one to own them? It's not because you can do them, you should be doing all the work, right? Who can we onboard to do this kind of job? And that is what happens with the retrospective when we see what we can drop from previous experience and move on. And are we doing the trainee trainer to enable others to highlight a potential release, right? Like, do we have that in mind? So I believe that it's extremely important. My recommendation is to schedule it for 1 hour, make sure that there is a Google, a pool that says, hey, would you be interested in doing this? And then move forward. That would be it.
So could that be like a triage call that's kind of separate? So we could kind of like just add a triage call.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, it's not going to be technical in the level, it's going to be a retrospective, and it should be pretty much the agenda on things like the PRs that are still open for 2021, things that many would like to see, the potential new committer is someone that is working currently on the TCK, but doesn't know much. Who can enable him or her to become a committer? That means the person needs to have much more responsibility than the average committer. It needs to have more handling in the level of being enabled. And that takes serious work. And the micro profile side, we have at least 2 people leading and 1 newcomer. And that potential newcomer is doing a lot of the work and making the mistakes. We need to make more mistakes on this level, especially because we have 10 coming in. This is a fantastic opportunity for the project itself to be aggressive on onboarding new members and making them feel responsible. That means failing nicely and openly.
Okay, great. All right. So that's good. Agreed. And no one would be against that. We'll have separate calls for that. And that sounds like a good organizational kind of thing. So it sounds good. Okay. And last minute, anything else from anyone? All right. Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day. And
Thanks, everyone. And Scott, hey, we're the only ones in video, socials. Like, I had to show my face a little bit to say moral support. Bye,
I use
everyone.
video, but my PC chokes when I do it. So
Next call, the retrospective one. If we can do the retrospective in February, then everyone has the opportunity to show their nice Jakarta t-shirts. I will tweet. I haven't